Hi, welcome to some ideas using 2.5-inch strips with GourmetQuilter. We're having a lot of fun with these ideas. We are doing 20 ideas altogether and we are up to number 17. So that's a lot of fun. So this time we're going to have a little play with cutting some strips in half to start with, but for those of you who are signed up to receive the pattern from GourmetQuilter.com, you'll have something that tells you all about it. I'm just going to show you how to do it. So we're going to have a little go at making some little fabric coiled bowls, dishes, whatever you like to call it. I just thought they were really fun and we just need some strips of fabric. So I've gone ahead, I'm going to try and make something a little like this. They come out a little bit differently every time, which is always nice and interesting as well. So I've ended up with, to make one like this out of one colour, like I have here, I've used 2 strips of the same fabric. This one here is using 2 colours and this one here is actually using 4 different fabrics. So it's just a bit larger, that one, same sort of thing. So we're just going to have a go at this one, and I've got 2 strips of the same fabric here. And so all we need to do initially, and I know you know how to do this, but I just thought I would just do it so that there was absolutely no doubt about how it's all done. They need to be cut in half, so they're 2.5 inches wide now, so we want the strips to be 1¼ inches. Well, that's because that's half of the strip width. That works really well, doesn't it? But it actually happens to work quite well for what we're trying to do today. So this one used that amount of fabric, and it used, I didn't actually measure the cord, but I think there's something close to 3 yards of cord. Now I should talk a little bit about the cord. So like a washing line cord or cotton cord is really good. This is not cotton and it's just slightly thicker than is recommended. Cords come in all different sorts of thicknesses and weights. You want one that's nice and pliable, that we can wrap easily and things like that. So this one came on a big roll like this. It's actually a synthetic cord, but it sews really well. You've got to be able to sew into it, so it needs to have a softness to it. But you can get cotton cord, which I don't happen to have any of, which works really nicely, clothesline cord and things like that. So what we're going to do to get started is, we'll just start with 1 strip, how's that? We just want to get this going. So I've got the 1 strip, I've got the wrong side facing up, I've got the end of my cord, and about 3 to 4 inches from the end, I just want to do a little holding stitch across there, just to hold it in place. It just makes it easier when we're just initially trying to get going. So on the sewing machine I'm all set up to do a zigzag stitch. I've got a wide foot on that allows the needle to swing. We're going to be using a zigzag, so even this bit here can be zigzagged. So I'm just going to zigzag that just to hold it in place. It doesn't have to look beautiful, we're not going to see it, but it will be very helpful if it's held in place. And the other thing we're going to use a few of is these little clips. I found these little clips are absolutely perfect for this task. You may have other clips, I have these ones. So I've got that, I've got my cord at a bit of an angle, and we're going to be wrapping the cord. So this little bit here is just going to get us started. So we're just going to wrap it around. Now because this all wants to tangle up, I have found that it's much easier if I just loosely bunch that a little bit and pop a clip on that, and I'll do that with the other pieces as well as I'm going, so that when I grab them I can wrap them more easily, because we want to wrap that around, and if it's all long and floaty it's not actually all that helpful. So I just want to wrap that just maybe a little bit, just to get that started, and more than anything so that I've got this end available to get started with, and I'm just going to put a clip on there to hold that. So now this end, we're just going to twist this up, and this is going to be our little starting point. So it's just twisted, nothing particularly amazing about that. This is the hardest bit of the whole process of making these little bowls. So I'm just coiling that. So I've twisted it and I'm coiling it and I'm just holding it. Now you may want to put a pin through there just to hold it, because we're going to try and stitch through that. It's probably quite hard to pin because it's a little bit thick, but it would probably just help while we pop it under the foot on the sewing machine. And we're just going to do a little bit of zigzaggy stitch just over it, just to hold that little central coil in place. So I'll just take the pin out, and I'm just going to back up a little bit here. So just backing up a little bit, and then I'm just going to just change direction a little bit so that I can come across and just make sure that everything there is held, and again back up. And if I leave the needle on the right hand side, I'm pretty much ready to go. We want this so that this part of the rope is coming out to the right, because we're going to be coiling around in that direction. So I'm all ready to go. I can just start a little bit. So this, as I said, this center bit is the hardest bit because it's not as easy to maneuver, but I'm all ready to start now bringing that around that very central little bit. And I can even just do a couple more stitches there, and I'm leaving this needle down on the right at the moment. And now I want to take that clip out because I want to wrap more of my cord. So I never really wrap more than about 6 or 8 inches at a time, just on a bit of an angle. And because we're wrapping and everyone wraps a little bit differently, etc., etc., it's very hard to give exact quantities of fabric and cord that we're going to use. Now, if you've got a knee lift, that would be probably quite helpful with this getting going. I don't have mine here today. So I'm just trying to now turn that a little bit. So every few stitches just while we're getting going. And trying to leave the needle on the right. That matters more in this beginning stage than it does later on. And you'll see that as we get going. So I'm just starting to bring that around now. So we're zigzagging right across from the coil onto the outside bit that we're just wrapping around. And I've got this close now, so I'm going to wrap a little bit more. So I'm just going to take this clip out, but I don't want to take it completely away. I just want to give myself a few inches here so that I can take this one out and keep wrapping. So it just probably looks worse than it is. When you're actually doing it, it seems to make a whole lot of sense to do this sort of thing. So I'm just keeping a little bit of tension, not pulling it too hard because I've got the needle in, but just a little bit of tension on that, just so that I can wrap that quite nicely, put the clip back on again, and then back to the sewing machine. And I'm just still needing to manually just turn this a little bit. Very shortly we'll be able to just kind of swivel it as we go. There's nearly enough there to do that now. So we've done the hardest bit. So we're starting to get a nice little coil going up here now. So I am making a little bowl. However, you can make coasters, placemats, all sorts of other things doing this, because you can stitch through it. You can applique onto it if you want to. There's a whole lot of things you can do. So now it's big enough now. See, I can just pull that around gently now. Now I need to do some more wrapping, so I need a bit more length here. So you can see that once you get going, it's really not so bad. It's just that first little bit in the middle that's the hardest. So I'll keep going a little bit more, and then when I run out of the fabric, I'll show you how to join another piece in. Just got to the fun bit now. So I've got enough here to work with again, and so I'm just zigzagging over that little join in the middle. I'm hoping you can see this all right. So it's just turning it and wrapping it around and stitching it together. So I'll just keep going till I'm ready now to join the next piece of fabric in, because it's really all the same thing now, and show you how we can do that. So I'm just coming up here, I've just coming to the end of this strip, and I'm going to take the clip off. I'm just going to wrap it around another time, because I don't want too much sitting there. And then I've just got my next strip, and all I'm doing is laying that in there, and then just holding that and wrapping the two bits together. So probably just a matter of keeping it together more than anything. I'll move my hand in a minute. And then I can pop the clip back on just to help hold it while I just wrap a little bit more. And then we're kind of back in business again, because we're back to normal again now. Sometimes there's a little bit of a flapping corner here, and I'm just trim that off because the whole thing has got little raw edges. The bowl will need a little haircut when it's finished from threads and things, but you can just trim off a little corner like that and it makes no difference whatsoever to the bowl. It's quite an exciting way of using up strips. You can use lots of different coloured strips. You can change colours. Now you could join all your strips into one long strip rather than this sort of folding them in as we go. The only thing is, of course, you've got to keep wrapping it around the cord every time. So I'm back here again to sew again, so I'm just now going to keep going. I've got enough to just work with, and I'm just back on sewing. And that's the join in there, I can see from here. And now I'm back to winding again. So I might just keep going till I start changing the shape of the bowl, and I'll show you how to do that. So this is so much fun. I'm just going round and round in circles. However, I want to think about the shape of my bowl, and I think I've got enough base. This is my little green one, and I've done about the same amount, I think. So really, just to create that little shape, all we're doing is lifting this as we go. So I can start lifting, and what that does is changes the position of where the cords join, and it takes a little while for it to become obvious, but we're now creating some curved sides. I do have to keep winding my thread on, and of course the good thing about these little clips is if you've forgotten to have something just handy like the next bit of fabric or something, you can actually just clip it and go and do that bit. Bring it over closer, whatever it is that you need to do. These clips are just perfect for this. So I'm just keeping this up on the side here, and still just otherwise everything's the same, just rotating it through. Winding. So I might just keep going for a little bit. I'll thread in, get the next strip of fabric in, and then show you how to continue on. So I'm having a wonderful time here with this little bowl. I'm keeping it tilted up, so you can probably start to see that those sides are just coming in nicely now. So I'll keep going again. I just thought you'd like to see where I was at, and then show you how we finish off when I get to the end. I'm on the last strip now, so I'll show you how we finish off as well. So I'm just coming up towards the end of my rope, my cord, whatever it is that's in there. So I'll just sew up as close as I can reasonably go. So I'm going to run out of cord or fabric before I run out of cord, but that's okay, because all we need to do is just trim off the cord where we can still wrap it with the fabric, and we just want to leave ourselves probably a couple of inches of fabric at this end, so that we can just finish wrapping the cord right to the end of the cord, and then we're just going to twist the last bit of fabric, kind of like we did when we started. So I'll just stitch it up to that point, and then I'll stitch that down onto the bowl. It does make a little sort of bump, but that's how baskets are made, with this sort of coiled thing. So I'm nearly at the end of the rope, nearly at the end of my rope. That's a funny one. So the rope's running out now. So what I've got here is the twisted bit of fabric that was at the end. I'm just going to bring that across and stitch it across to more or less in that sort of space in the ditch, if you like, of the last join. And then I'm actually going to reverse back up again just to flatten that out nicely. And that's it. We are done. So there's my little bowl. I'm really pleased with that. I think it's come up really well. It's finished off, so you just do get that little kind of a bump down, but then anything with a coil is going to do that. And I think that's sitting really nicely. You can shape them a little bit. They're quite pliable. You can turn them inside out if you want to. I don't know why you want to, but you can. So you can make that shape a nice little shape. It's very similar to my one that I had already made, so I'm quite pleased about that. This one here, when I made that one, it was just the same, but I just kept going flatter before I started coming up the side. Other than that, it was made the same, and this one I kept going flatter, and then I just added more. I had a longer cord and more fabric strips. So I think they're really fun to do. You can keep all sorts of things. Now people would say, what would you use one of those for? Well, I would use one, well, of course, the obvious, a little bowl of chocolates. Now how nice would that be? You can throw some coins in, you can throw your keys in when you need somewhere to put things, you can throw sewing things, little reel of thread, scissors, all those sorts of things. And of course the main use that I can think of is of course to cook with. I just thought I had to show you this. So this is something I actually made several years ago. We have bacon, we have egg, but the fry pan is made from the coiling. So I just thought I'd show you that because it's the obvious use for coiled baskets, is a fry pan for breakfast, and why not? But it was really, it's just a bit of fun. I just thought it would be fun to show you another way of using our 2.5 inch strips just by cutting them into the half width. You can use shorter lengths, you can use different colours, you can go on making something much larger. So you could use up all sorts of bits and pieces. You could even join smaller bits together to make a longer strip of things. There's so much you can do. You will need to have a little play for some of that, of course, but that was how to make a little coiled bowl using half the width really of a 2.5 inch strip. But I just thought that was fun. So thank you. That was idea number 17. I will see you again with idea number 18.